2 of why I chose my wife. Today we are going to have a very interesting time, inspiring time, and of course a very educative time as well, learning from Dr. Damilola on why he chose his wife, and then going further to cascade the principles to draw so that men who are on the journey to choosing their wives, because men are the ones that have the access to marriage, you're the one on the journey to choosing your wife, you can learn how to do so rightly without going round in circles and, frankly speaking, wasting your life. So we're going to have Dr. Dami join us right now. It's so early, and we'll just start out with the conversation. I'm SAGENEL. You should share your comments as well, and of course subscribe. We'll have Dr. Dami join us immediately, and then we'll start out with the conversation. Good morning, Dr. Dami.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you so much for choosing to do this. I don't take it at all for granted. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
So I'll just go right into reading a brief part of your profile, and then we'll dive right into the conversation. Dr. Damilola Adeniyi is a medical doctor, public health professional, and an infection control specialist with over 12 years of experience working with public, private, and non-profit health-based organizations. He currently serves as program manager for the U.S. Center for Disease Control, Infection Control Africa Network Toolkit Project at the Center for Infection Control and Patient Safety on College of Medicine, University of Lagos. He is an author, sought-after speaker, and lead family coach at the Family Life Factory, an organization he founded with a mission to raise healthy, happy, and future-forward families through advocacy, coaching, and recreational retreats. He is an Institute of Family Engineering and Development and certified SYMBIS certified family life practitioner. He's a lover of Christ who is happily married to Olufumilayo. Their union is blessed with 3 nations. Welcome, Dr. Damilola. Welcome, Dr. Frega. I also see Dr. Frega on the live. All right, so let us dive into it. Your profile is inspiring. Thank you for everything that you continue to do to add value to our nation and to the family life space. So the first and the most important question, and other questions will come after it, is why did you choose your wife? You're currently married to your wife, Olufumilayo, like you shared with us. But could you take us through the journey of why you made the decision to say, she is the one I want to spend the rest of my life with?
Okay. You know, when you sent the invite, I was joking with my wife. I think it was this morning. So I asked her, why did I even choose you? And you know, I'm not sure I've really thought about it. The why question can be tricky many times. Again, thank you for having me. I'm glad for this opportunity. Interestingly, we've not met in person. I don't think we've met in person yet.
We met at yes.
The conference. Yeah.
Yes, the conference.
Yes, okay, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, so it's a beautiful thing you're doing. When you sent the voice note about what you do, we're helping, women, make the right choice. And then I know, because you're a family life practitioner, and delving into the world of, matchmaking it takes a bold person to do that. Yeah, it takes a very bold.
I'm a person with strong conviction to not be swayed by money, to just matchmake you can matchmake anybody, and the marriage is not going to work, all in the name of you just want to make money, which I don't do.
So it's not something that is easy, because even when people make choices themselves, I am the one that chose this person. Sometimes they have issues with because life happens, and then when they have to deal with real issues, they begin to wonder, okay, did I make the right choice or did I not make the right choice? Which we'll look into today. Because the idea is we want to know, as a man, what exactly do you look out for, in a potential wife? I know this is majorly for the men, and I'm sure that the women can also. God will strengthen you and grant you wisdom and the fortitude, to continue this. And I'm sure you take, encouragement from those that you have helped and those that you've added value to. Okay, so to the question, why why did I choose my wife? So I will take a step back and say, because I feel this is important, that before anyone, begins to ask the question, okay, what do I look out for in a spouse? What exactly do I look out for in a woman? I think it's important that you realize that the concept of making a marriage choice or the choice of a life partner, it is not a simplistic, decision. It's not something that is dependent on, whether she is the right one or he's the right one. I think that's the first mistake that a lot of people make. Because what happens is this: when someone, so let me give you an example. Within religious circles, for example, a guy can say, God told me that this is the person that I should marry, or God told me that this is my wife. We've heard that happen, a number of times. Or a lady says, God told me this is my husband, which that one is even more dangerous because within the cultural context that we are, a woman making the first move is something that is not exactly embraced, and there's really nothing wrong with that. There is a way to do that, but that's not what we're talking about, today. And so what happens most times is that people summarize the experience of that relationship, if it eventually happens, or the experience of that marriage, to that choice or to that decision. But God said this is the person, but God told me that she is the one. It is not as simple as, God said this is the person and then that is it. No, that's not how it works, because we are created as free will beings. We are made in God's image, but one of the greatest gifts He's given us is the right to choose. So every man or every woman has a right to choose, has a right to say, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going in that direction. And so when we look at the marriage context, we're looking at two mortal beings. God is still the one that started the marriage institution. He's the author of the marriage institution, and so there's also the concept of you understanding how the marriage institution works. So to break it down so that it's easy to remember, I would say anyone considering marriage, because not everyone will marry. Anyone considering marriage, whether you're a man or a woman, there are three basic things. Now there are more than three, but just for the sake of this session, so that it's easy to remember, there are three basic things you need to know. The first thing is that you need to know yourself. That's the first thing. Before you choose someone, because there is no such thing as, this person is the one for me. All right. Yes, I believe in one man, and one woman, and I believe in the sanctity, the fidelity, and the holiness of the marriage institution, the exclusivity of that, and the beauty, that platform gives for lifelong intimacy, and friendship. But it is not as simple as saying, oh, okay, once you locate this person, let's assume all of us on earth have identification numbers, and there are about seven now. We're about 7.5 billion people. Once you discover the human being with the identification number 1.5 million, just look for her wherever she is. She's the one. It doesn't work that way. Because there are many people
to want to marry you.
Yeah, so it doesn't work that way, because there are many people that would fit the frame of the kind of person that would be suitable for you, but you have the choice of choosing one. You understand what I mean? So the first thing is that you have to know yourself, because to make a choice of someone, and again, it's a request, you want this person to spend the rest of their life with you, there must be something you are offering. You can't be a liability looking for an asset. So you have to understand yourself, and it's not just about what you are able to offer. It's also about understanding your own peculiarities, understand your background, where you're coming from, understand where you are going to, understand your strengths, understand your personality, your life purpose. What is it? Because these are the things that will be discussed in the relationship. So it's not just about, somebody was born and the fact that they were born automatically, you just need to find it's beyond that. So first thing is to know yourself. The second thing is that you have to understand the marriage institution. These are two things. Before we will now talk about the third thing, which is you have to get to know the person that you want to spend the rest of your life with. Now, like I said, it's not as simple as that, but just to simplify it, you have to know yourself. You have to know what the marriage institution is about, because the truth is that what some people really want is not marriage. They want something else, but they think it is marriage. You have to understand how marriage works. You have to understand that marriage has huge blessings, huge benefits, but there are also huge responsibilities. You have to understand that marriage puts healthy boundaries on you. And so as a single person, you need to ask yourself, am I ready to be accountable to someone? Because the person you end up marrying is someone you have to be accountable to. Accountability goes both ways, and it's God's security system for our life and our future. When I take, our clients through professional counseling, I usually use, this analogy. As a single person, you may decide, single guy, you have your space, maybe it's a one-room apartment. You can decide that you're coming home, at 11. You don't like Lagos traffic. By the way, traffic is not much these days. Now that, fuel is the way it is. Well, so you can decide that, okay, I don't want to be in any form of traffic. I'm not going to leave the office until maybe 9. And then you get home maybe 10. All right. As a single person, you can decide that. But as a married person, you can't just decide that. Your partner says so matters. And so that is part of understanding how marriage works. As a single person, you can, there are things you can get away with when you're chatting with, people of the opposite sex. Yes, life has its boundaries and everyone should be accorded, a level of respect. But when you marry, the tides turn. There are things you can't say to someone because you don't want to be seen to be suggesting something that will be disrespectful to your spouse. And so these are just examples of the things that people need to understand how marriage works. When you marry someone, what you have done is that you have elevated them into a place that is above every other person, every other mortal person. And so there is a honor that you must accord that person, which will require making certain decisions and making certain sacrifices. And that honor should go both ways. So it should go in both directions. It should be mutual. These are some of the things that surround the marriage institution. And so why we see a lot of people, in and out of marriage, quickly as they say I do, they say I don't very soon. Yeah. Very quickly, because they really didn't count the cost. What they felt they wanted was marriage, but what they really wanted wasn't marriage. What they really wanted was somebody to cook for them. What they really wanted was somebody to, just play with them when they are in the mood. What about when you're not in the mood and the person wants to play? When you're married, you have to play because you have an obligation with them. And so knowing what the marriage institution is about, and I feel that is where a lot of people, miss it, together with not really knowing who they are, not really discovering themselves in God and all of that. And then they jump at anybody that looks like something that they like. All right, she looks good, and it's important that she looks good, but it's beyond she looking good physically. What happens when those attributes are gone? Because she will not always look like she is now, just like the way you will not always look the way you are now. And so it has to be something that is deeper. And so before choosing, back to your question, before choosing my spouse, one of the things that I did before choosing my wife, one of the things that I did was self-discovery, which is something that usually starts from sometimes childhood, sometimes from the teenage years, to really find out, okay, why exactly am I here? What am I passionate about? What do I love to do? What are my values? Because it is important that when you look out for a spouse, now I'm delving into the answers now. You're looking for somebody that shares the values that you share. That is very fundamental. Values, your value system, very, very fundamental. What are your core convictions? When you strip a man bare, what is left is his conviction, or what you have left are his values, ultimately. And so you can't successfully be in a marriage with someone that has values that are different from yours. When working with clients, there's a tool, I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's called the user's manual. The user's manual is something that we use to help intending couples and even sometimes singles to discover themselves and understand their partner a lot more. So you design a user's manual for yourself and then you share with your partner. And one of the core aspects of the user's manual is the part that talks about values. What are your values? And so you want to be with someone that shares the same values. And it's not just about, meeting and asking her, what are your values? You can ask that. But more importantly, it's about observing. And so the dating period is a period of, intelligent observation. All right. And investigation as well. Very important because you need to do background checks and all those things. So you want to observe. When you observe a person close, close up, you can tell what their values are. When you see how they respond to conflict, how they respond to pressure, how they respond to, situations not going the way they plan, then their values show up. When you see them, respond to life generally, when it looks like nobody is watching them, you see their values. And so you want to be with someone that shares the values that you have. And that's one of the things that I discovered, with my wife while we dated. We dated for close to 5 years, which is probably not the most ideal. I don't think, courtship necessarily have to be that long, but when it comes to courtship, it's not just about the longevity, it's also about the quality of time you guys spend together. And so if you're in a long distance relationship, I did an Insta Live recently with a dear senior, friend and colleague that I respect greatly. And we're talking about, long distance relationships. And, for example, we're having this Insta Live. Now, we're not in the same room, we're not in the same space, but we can do this. And so, technology gives you leverage to do certain things. But with long distance relationships, there's a lot of intentionality that's required, because if you cannot spend time with the person in the same space all year long, then you have to think of other ways to really get to know the person. And so while we dated, we met on campus, College of Medicine. I was my final year. I think she was in 300 level then. And I like to take a lot of walks. And then, I'd also noticed that she liked to take walks. The first, relationship-like conversation we had was while, taking walks. Our paths crossed while taking walks. And then we decided to work together. And like they say, the rest is history. Let me see all the other details. Yeah, but one of the things I discovered was that, my values were aligned, with hers in the course of time. And it takes time, to actually, determine that. And so back to what I was saying earlier, you have to know yourself. If you don't know yourself, it is difficult to know whether the person you want to be with, is someone you can work with. Again, like I said, it's not a simple equation. It's not 1 + 1 = 2. It doesn't work that way. There are many things that will be dependent on the person's choices. All right, your ability to make healthy compromises and so many other things. Yeah, but an easy place to start off from will be somebody that shares your values. And our values are basically who we are ultimately. So let me just give you an example. I strongly believe in the value of the human being. That's one of the biggest challenges I have in Nigeria, because it looks like we have systems that don't value people. All right. And then we have to go against, it's like you're riding against the tide, driving against the slope, that values the human being, regardless of who they are, regardless of, what they believe in, regardless of, their gender, regardless of their socioeconomic status. Everyone, I believe so strongly that everyone is made in the image and the likeness of God and should be treated with at least, basic kindness and dignity and empathy. I can't be with somebody that doesn't have that value. That's the honest truth. So what happens sometimes is that when people date, they don't know what to look out for. And then, the dating period, there's a lot of, like they say, a lot of forming, a lot of packaging. And then after you say I do, then you now unwrap the package and you now see what you have bought, in quotes, probably to use that, illustration. And then you see the real person. And so values, very, very, very key. When you know yourself, you know what your values are. When you understand how the marriage institution works, you see what you're getting into, because it's not like, purchasing something with your debit card. I want to buy a box of, chocolate or donuts. That's not what marriage is. You are not buying the person from the market. Both of you are making choices. So it's not you buying the person. Literally, it's almost as if they also can decide whether I want to go with this person as much as you are trying to decide. Yeah. So you need to understand that the person's opinion. So if you're a kind of person that, if you have an opinion on something, you cannot be agreeable with somebody that shares a different opinion on that thing. You can't peaceably live with them. Then you can't be married. That's the honest truth. So those are some of the things. If you're the kind of person that you believe that you are always right, marriage is not for you. That's the honest truth. So you have to understand that I am a human being, and what I know is what I know, and I am not the custodian of all knowledge. The way I know is the way I know. And so there will always be better ways to do what I know. And then when you have that mindset, it means that you can see the value in someone else and say, oh, this person actually does it better. Let's adopt, this person's way of doing things. I'm still, still tiptoeing around the concept of, are you really ready for marriage? Because it takes a lot of, intentionality and a lot of work. I call it fun work when you deal with somebody that you love. It takes a lot of fun work, to be married and to be happily married. Yeah, so if you feel that you are always right, it is very unlikely that you'll be happily married. Either that, or you will be with somebody that may be unhappy and then will just defer to you, especially if you are the guy. Because there is no person that is always right when you are not God. And so it means that you have to be teachable. You have to be willing to accept correction. You have to be able to say, oh, I'm sorry, I was wrong there. These are the things that come with living with somebody for the rest of your life, regardless of what their personality is, regardless of, how they look, regardless of how much money they have or do not have. The question, am I really ready for marriage? Do I really want? So what I did was I studied, what marriage was, beginning from the Bible. And then I began to read materials like Miles Monroe's books and many other books. I've read quite a number of books on marriage. And then, of course, fast forward, even post-marriage, taking a couple of courses here and there. I'm a family life practitioner, and, I'm happy to help couples in their journey. But I'm also, developing myself. I'm also learning. And so I think it was last year or 2 years ago, I signed up for a course with one of my, Egbons, one of my mentors. And the cost was, getting to millions in Naira. And we were willing to invest, and my wife and I. So it wasn't a course, so that would, help other people. It was a cost that we're investing in ourselves to be better, to build family systems. And so you have to be willing to do that. Nobody goes into a business without doing what we call things like, root cause analysis, doing SWOT analysis and all those things. You have to do those basic things. In the same way, if you're going to ask someone to marry you, then it means that you have done your due diligence to understand how marriage works. Because if you do not have your own idea of how marriage works, how then do you, put it side by side with somebody's perspective of how marriage works? And so
Able to join now. I just thought you were saying you were unable to join, but I'm glad that was sorted out.
oh, okay. Yeah, Instagram does that sometimes.
So do you remember where you were, Dr. Dan? Because it was so interesting. Like I'm just even taking notes. Oh,
Well, it took a while for me to realize that it was buffering. So I don't remember exactly what you heard, the last thing you heard, but I was talking about, how.
you said that a course you invested millions in, and how you were. Well, that's where I stopped. How the
Oh, okay,
investment was
okay.
not even for your career, but for your personal investments.
Yes, not millions, close to a million. So
Just
that, yeah. So then I went ahead to talk about how it is when you're dating that person. One of the things you're looking out for would be just to emphasize the importance of understanding what marriage really is. One of the things you want to look out is you want to juxtapose their own idea of what being married is with yours. Because different people have different concepts of what marriage is. Again, this is not even just about understanding the person's personality, what their dreams are, their outlook to life, the things that really matter to them, their core values. You want to know what is their own concept of marriage, because the truth is people get married and it's after they said I do that they realized that they had different versions of marriage in their mind. Somebody felt like, oh, being married doesn't mean that I'm exclusive to you. It means that we see other people. Some people have that concept of marriage, and that's the truth. All right. So you those are some of the things you need to look out for. And even those people could be very nice people. They could be kind people, but they honestly just believe that, why am I supposed to be exclusive with one person? And then sometimes you see the signs of those all of that in the relationship. So I can't overemphasize the importance of you defining for yourself what marriage is. And to do that, you have to study. the safest place I would ask anyone to begin is in the Bible, because God is the author of marriage. He is the one that created us. You start from there, and then you read many, and there's so many materials, that are rich and helpful. Because this is 2023. Why we work, something that has worked so many years. There are so many people, in different generations that have had healthy marriages that work, and they have translated it literally. There's almost become an inheritance for their kids. And that's the interesting thing about marriage, which is why we talk about context. We talk about getting to know where they are from. A lot about what we believe and our outlook to life, and even marriage as an institution or the concept of family, is tied to where we are coming from. And so you want to know, what kind of marriage did this person's parents have. Now, it doesn't mean that automatically if the parents' marriage worked, yours will work. But there's a lot you can learn. Yes, there's a lot you can learn from that. All right. So you want to know, what kind of family, what are the things that they believe really. All right. What experiences did this person have? There's something called the tree of life that we also use, in professional counseling to look at some of those things. You want to look at their background. You want to look at their environment. You want to look at, significant emotional experiences that they've had. All those things have a way of shaping us as individuals, and also, influencing our idea of what marriage or what a family is. Yeah, so knowing yourself, you need to know yourself. You need to know what the marriage decision is about before you can even begin to talk about, getting to know this person. And so what do I look out for? Based on the assumption that, you've done this, all right, you've done your studies, all right, you have a good understanding of who you are, what you really, the things that really matter to you, what your purpose, here on earth is, and all those things, what you really want to do going forward, your personalities and all of those things. And you don't have to wait until you make a choice to marry someone or wait for premarital counseling to do all of that. You can even, these are things you can do on a journey of self-discovery, personal self-discovery, or you can get the services of professionals to help you. All right, run, basic personality tests. Run, there's so many, assessment tests that you can run that will help you understand yourself, a lot more. Now, having done all of that, what are the things that personally, now, to answer the question, personally, the things that I saw in my wife that, attracted me to her? The first thing was our faith. And then when I say our faith, the way she related with God. I believe strongly that sometimes, especially in the day and time we live in, people try to take God out of, everything. Take God out of marriage. Take God out of the schools. Take God out of, it's something that is common. And if you study history, nations that have, that were world powers that fell, that were empires and fell, go and check it. And, we have those that we call world powers today. But go and check history. The ones that got into a place of prominence, and then they began to do things that were literally anti-God and began to exclude, God from whatever successes they had built. It was only a matter of time they came crumbling, which is very important. So let nobody deceive you. You say, oh, he's an awesome guy. I have never met anyone like this. Everybody is only as awesome as they receive strength from God. That's the honest truth. And so you want to be with someone that fears God, genuinely fears God. And I know what I'm saying. When I say genuinely fears God, life happens. Things will happen, challenges may come, and it is what will keep certain people in check and would ensure that they keep their vows or ensure that they honor their marriage or they honor their family is their fear of God. And so let nobody, if you are listening to me, please, let nobody try to, say, oh, these days, people say all kinds of things about, churches or whatever faith you belong to and religious bodies and everything. Yes, we know that extreme religion has led to a lot of damage, but let nobody deceive you. Taking God out of any concept, only a matter of time, it will crumble. And so you want to look out for someone that genuinely fears God. Somebody that knows that even if nobody is watching, there is someone, above that is watching and has a conscience that is amenable, to correction. That is very, very key. Before you talk about, oh, they dress so lovely. Oh, I like, she's sexy and all of those things. We thank God, for those things. Those things are important. They have their place and those things can be built on. But if somebody by default has no regard for God, And when I say regard for God, how do you know if somebody has regard for God? Because the concept of God sometimes can be confusing to people because someone says, oh, we don't see God. No, it's not hard. How do they treat people? The way we treat people is a reflection of, our faith in God, our fear of God. All right. Somebody is in a position that they are subservient to you or they are your subordinates. All right. And so they report to you. All right. Are you the kind of person that will make their life miserable just to take advantage of them? Anyone that would do that doesn't fear God or doesn't even believe in God. Because when you believe in God, it means that you recognize that there is someone above you. No matter how high you rise, no matter how wealthy you become, no matter how powerful or how famous you become, because things like wealth and money actually changes in quotes, reveals certain things, certain weaknesses in certain people. And so you want to be with someone that doesn't take advantage of other people, speaks well of other people, doesn't always put people down. Those are the ways you would know if somebody fears God. Because when we treat others with respect, when we treat others with kindness, it is a reflection of the fact that we know that they are made in God's image. And we know that we are answerable to someone. One of the most dangerous things anyone can make, one of the most dangerous mistakes anyone can make is to, spend the rest of your life with somebody that is answerable to no one. It's a trap. And that's somewhere a lot of people find themselves. When people find themselves in abusive relationships, that often happens because the person, the abuser, who by himself might have also been a victim of some other person, maybe growing up, is not answerable to someone, and so it perpetuates, a circle of abuse. So you want to be with someone that is accountable, and so that is another way of me saying somebody that fears God. And so, how do you know if a person fears God? It shows up in the way they treat people. It shows up in their respect for God-ordained institutions. God-ordained institutions. What are the God-ordained institutions? Marriage is one of them. All right, family is one of them. Government is one of them. So somebody that literally always breaks the law. Somebody that has no regard for, he made some money, and then you want to know, how did you make this money? What business did you do? And then, he's trying to cover up and say, babe, let's just enjoy it. You will be the next. You will be on the receiving end very soon. You will be the next person to be swindled. Those institutions, their regard for government, their regard for the church, all right, or any religious institution, all right, their regard for spiritual authority, or any form of authority. These are ways by which you would know if a person fears God. Because the God that we don't see shows up in the men we see on earth. And so how a person treats other people is a reflection of how they will most likely treat you. While you're dating and everything is lovey-dovey and everything looks so good, everybody likes to put their best foot forward. But you can't package for 50 years. The real person will soon show up. And the way you know the real person is how they treat others. I recently did a video on the law of kindness, and I talked about how the things you can look out for, and it was in line with people asking questions about how do I know that this person is the right person to marry. It's not hard, honestly. It's very simple. All right? Are they kind? And there are at least 5 practical ways to know if a person is kind. Compassion, empathy for people that are in a position of lesser privilege than they are. Somebody that they do not necessarily, they don't have anything they can gain from them, but do they still treat them with dignity and respect? How they treat those that they call their friends, and to even start with who are even their friends. Because if you're comfortable around certain people, now there's a difference between acquaintances, colleagues, and friends. Those that are really your friends. If everything about their core values are wrong and go against yours, what makes you think that this person has a core value that goes aligned with yours? If it's comfortable around close friends and their core value is taking advantage of people, their core value is making at all costs, their core value is what do you call it, get rich or die trying, then how do you justify that his own core value is not that? You understand what I mean? Or their core value is, this life I can't kill myself, we'll make it if it's God's will. You don't make it if it's not God's will. That is a core value of not taking responsibility. That's a core value of being a lazy person, because you have to take responsibility for yourself. And by the way, if a person can't take care of himself, how do you expect him to take care of you? So those are some of the things we're looking at. It's very, very essential. Their circle of friends, how they treat people that they do not necessarily, they can't really get anything from, people that, can't pay them for their good, their compassion towards those that are in need. Ultimately, it boils down to how they treat people, because people are the most important concepts on earth. People matter to God, so people should matter to us. Very, very important. How they respond when there is conflict, when things don't go their way. All right, when somebody questions the veracity of the information that they have given, or and which is why it's important you expose the person you want to. I'm just going. Please feel free to interrupt if there's any. If you want me
No,
to go
no,
in a
no.
better
In fact,
direction
we are
here.
learning. No, no, no. We are learning very
Okay, so
much.
which is why it's important that you also expose that person to your circle. You want to expose them to your own friends. You want to expose them to your family. You want to expose them to your faith community. You want to expose them to different people, because sometimes there's what we call blind spots, relationship blind spot, which is another reason why sometimes people end up in abusive relationships. When you get emotionally attached to someone, especially if you put the cart before the horse in a relationship, you are likely to have what we call emotional blind or relationship blind spots. You may not see certain things. But when you expose that relationship to people that you trust, people that are important to you in your own circle, chances are that they can see that. So their opinion also counts. Even though nobody will make a decision for you, if you are accountable to someone, for example, your parents' opinion should count. If you have lived with people, and I know not everyone has good, a relationship, not good relationship with their parents, and that's fine. But the point is this: are there people in your life that you're accountable to? If there are no people in your life that you're accountable to, then you shouldn't even be thinking about marriage. You are a dangerous person to be with. That's the honest truth. And so, one of the things you want to begin to look at, because if you can't be accountable to someone that is either older than you, or that is advancing your career, or that is ahead of you in some way, why do you think you'll be accountable to someone that you want to marry that is like your peer? It'll be difficult. So you should have an accountability system in your life. Now, that accountability system, expose this person that you want to get married to that accountability system, because at least there's a level of trust. And so things that you may miss out, they will be able to see. That's how it works. So it's really not rocket science. And so when you begin to watch how they relate with those people, and sometimes some people are just very, very nice. Some people are nice. Some people are they are firm, and so I'm talking about those within your own circle. So you want to see how that person you want to be with responds to maybe some uncle that you respect greatly, or some mentor that that is a bit hard. And so you want to see their response. Very important, because when people are faced with conflict, how they respond also shows, says a lot about them. There's this saying that when a bottle is under pressure, what is inside the bottle will ultimately come out. So we're not saying that you set traps for the person, but we're saying that there are things you can look out for when you expose them to those that you trust. And so those are some of the things I also looked out for. Let me open up a bit about myself. All the while I was single, before I started dating, I had this family, and we used to call her grandma. She wasn't my mom's mom, but like an aunt to my mom, much older. And anytime, the few times I would go home and everything, the way people ask in a funny way about, the women in your life and everything, you understand what I mean?
Yes,
And then when she
yes.
says all those things, then she would end. I'm from a Yoruba background, and then she would end with Feibo. Feibo means we don't want an Igbo person. She always said it. I just laugh, because in my mind, one of the things I made up, and it was from my own personal discovery, I decided that I cannot allow somebody else's prejudice to determine, my choices. I can't. As much as I should be able to measure, the wisdom of those that are my family, my parents, and different people, I am the one that will ultimately make a decision. So I have to weigh all those things. In my mind, God knows that I was open to marrying whether the person was Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, whatever tribe they were from. For me, the tribe wasn't going to be the most important thing. My wife is not Yoruba, even though she has a Yoruba name and she's lived in Lagos all her life. No, she's not Yoruba. She's from Edo State. And so I knew also that my mom had, to an extent, that prejudice. She would definitely have preferred a Yoruba person. And so when we started dating, it crossed my mind that this one, I'm dating someone that is not Yoruba. And so that's part of how part of the wisdom and the tact with which you conduct a relationship. She has a Yoruba name. And my wife and my mom loved her from day one. Absolutely. It was eventually later in the dating relationship that she discovered that she was not, Yoruba. But it didn't change anything really. And so why did I say all of that? I said all of that because I realized that, there are many things that, you consider. yes, a person's background is important. One of the reasons why some people are firm about certain tribes is because of, experiences they've had with other people, from some other tribes that were not pleasant, and the things they know about those tribes. So you weigh that information. You ultimately are the one that will decide, but you should be able to expose your relationship to healthy, healthy connections. Let me put it that way, because not all connections are healthy. And so if you're dating someone or you want to marry someone that complains about everybody in your circle, that's a problem. That's a problem, because you are not separate from that circle. Very soon they will complain about you. You need to understand that. So of course I know that, yes, it's the truth. So you these are the things that that's how life is. We like to say you must learn how to read life. There's a way to read life. Some of these things you might not find in a book, but it's part of the way you read life. Your parents, their opinion about a person has to count. Their opinion about a person may not be the final say, but it has to count. Your closest friends, their opinion about a person has to count. And so if the opinion about everyone, and I can tell you that people that have genuine relationships, friends, people of trust around them, people like that ended up in abusive relationships. Now, I know that it's more complex than we say it is, because many things can happen in a marriage and things can go south. But a lot of people that ended up with somebody that already was an abusive person, a lot of times they didn't listen to the counsel of those people, because sometimes God doesn't speak to us in a loud voice or even a still small voice. Sometimes He speaks through the people that we trust. Those, yes, He spoke. And that's why, again, like I said, people are very key. And so these are some of the things that I looked at. My wife genuinely fears God. All right, I fear God. At least I believe that I fear God. And so when I am upset, which I rarely am, but the few times I'm upset, I know what I know how I can be when I'm upset, and I know that it is the fear of God that will restrain me and say, no, you can't cross this line, you can't do this and everything. You understand what I mean? So the fear of God is important. I think it's very important, because at the end of the day, you want to be with somebody that is accountable to a higher power, which reflects in how they deal with other people. That's the only way that there's a chance that they will be accountable to you. Let me quickly just say here, in marriage, the husband is accountable to the wife, and the wife is accountable to the husband. Any other one that tells you something else, just discard it. It is mutual accountability. Yes, the man remains the head of the home, but he is also accountable to the wife. That's very, very important. And so, she's someone that fears God. And then another thing was that I saw that she genuinely, had compassion for people, genuinely respected people. These are some of, my own core values. And beyond that, also because of, my faith, I also saw that she was someone that was passionate about the things of God. That's important to me also, because I consider myself to be a person that is passionate. So those are the basic things. Of course, in terms of, the way she looks, there are people that, make an impression. My wife is extremely beautiful, by the way. I still believe she's extremely beautiful. And I tell her, sometimes she thinks I'm joking, that, after all these years, I genuinely feel that she's beautiful. Now, I know beauty is a complex concept, because it depends on people's, perception. All right. So, but physical attraction is also important in a relationship. I don't believe that it should be the priority, but I believe that it should be there. All right. So being attracted to a person that you're dating, it helps, the relationship. And sometimes as you really get to know a person, you find out that you get attracted to things that are even deeper than their, physical beauty or their physical, attributes. Again, like I said, because a time will come when those things will change, but who they are on the inside will never change. The fact that they are loyal to you 100%, will not change. That's not going to change over time. That will grow, as long as you are also loyal to them. The fact that they are, honorable, the fact that they are industrious, the fact that, they are smart. And it's important. If you're a very cerebral person, it is unlikely you will connect with somebody that is not half as cerebral as you. Now, it doesn't mean that the person has to be as cerebral as you, but if you're someone that is very intellectual, and there are people that are like that, all right, chances are that you want to be with somebody that you can sustain a conversation with. Yeah, so as far as I was concerned, my interests, are also an interest to a large degree. Our personalities are different. We have very different personalities. She's more extroverted than I am. All right, in family systems engineering circle, I am more systematic, Ford kind of, systematic Ford and or systematic truck
Yeah.
sometimes they blend. But she is more, dependable, dependable to a bit of, with a bit of creative convertible and everything. So our personalities, are different. And that's another thing that you need to understand how to navigate. But in terms of what we value, we value the same things. Of course, also, family background and everything. Our backgrounds are a bit different. Like I said, I am from a Yoruba background, but she's lived in Lagos, and so she understands the Yoruba culture. Not because, how respectful she is the ultimate choice, but I know that I don't live in a vacuum, and our marriage is not in a vacuum. And so we have to interface with our family members. And so our understanding of the Yoruba culture when it comes to things like respect and, the way Yorubas are, those things are important, and those things can be learned. So, these are, additional things that come in. But for me, if you ask me fundamentally, I'm going to stop now because I feel like I've been talking for a year. For me, the fundamental things are that, number one, why I choose my spouse, number one, I fear of God. I know she genuinely fears God. Number two, the way she treated people, having genuine compassion for people. And I actually, honestly feel she's a more compassionate person than I am, because I can disconnect, I can be aloof, sometimes. All right, but she's, genuinely compassionate and, treats people right. And then maybe I'll put number three. There are a number of things. I'll put number three as, also, being a smart person, being an intelligent person, being an industrious person. Yeah. So let me stop here for now.
Honestly, I wanted to say Pastor Dami because honestly, it's like you have been preaching in the past few minutes, and I'm really grateful because this is actually what I'm looking for, Dr. Dami. When I asked why I chose, if I asked the question, I'm just looking for one sentence, and this is important because you've been able to break it down, and we are very dedicated. We even opened a new page to cutting clips and putting it out there. We are dedicated to spreading this message out there so that people can learn, because that's the whole essence of having the privilege of your time to share this with us. So everything you've broken down, in fact, has answered some of my questions. Like I was going to ask the requirements for readiness, but you've actually answered it in some of the answers that you gave. Now, I would like to ask an important question. First of all, Dr. Dami, we didn't get to how long have you been married for?
Oh, yeah. So we've been married for 9 years plus. We'll be 10 in, I think, 6 months. We'll be 10 years in 6 months.
Well, but cumulatively, that means you would have known each other for maybe close to
14
15
years.
14 thereabouts. So one of the problems with part of the things I shared with you in the voice note is some men who are even church men now, because I'm really talking about men that are ready for marriage. They are still finding it, so they're like, okay, I hear you, Dr. Dami, but I found some of these things that you have shared with us in a woman, but I'm not as physically attracted to her. I've had people who opened up to me to say, I like I like breasts, I like bum, but this person doesn't have it. What do I do? What do you want to say to such people? Can you reorientate yourself in your physical attraction? Because this is an important question, because we don't want a situation whereby the man says, okay, I like all that this woman has on the inside, but 2 years into the marriage, you're looking outside because you were not able to get yourself together to come to what you want. So how do men like that are in that dilemma of liking what this woman has internally, but externally it's like it's not all that not all of the aspect that she represents? Or what would you say to such men?
Okay, let me start by saying I don't think there is any man that dislikes breast and bum bum.
That's even a good starting. So that's really good.
Yes. So why I'm saying that is because, again, let's go back to the design. There's a reason why God designed women that way. All right, it's part of what makes a woman, attractive and appeal to a man. It's just the way it is. Now, the degree, how big and all those things might differ for a man. But I want to take a step back again and, just in a bit to answer this person's question. Sometimes the things that, because I think you need to really ask yourself what really matters, What are the things that really matter? You need to weigh things and say, okay, this has a greater weight than this. And so let's prioritize this, above this. I can assure you, understanding the way most men are built. If you are, again, there's something that you want to marry. It's not you want to have a fling, you want to just have a good time. You want to marry a person. Yes, it's important that you are attracted to them. But if you, so let's wait for this person. Let's assume this guy wants a woman that is, what's the word now? I want to use the right word. That is very endowed.
Okay,
That has very big features. She's plus size and all of that. Yes, that's what he thinks. That's what he thinks he wants, and that can be coming from different places. It can be coming from maybe stuff that he has watched and all of those things, and that may not exactly be what he really wants. But let me just try and paint a picture. He wants somebody that is plus size, that is big and everything. And whether you're plus size or whether you're slim and everything, God loves us all. That those that like big size, small size. But what I'm trying to say is this. That attribute is not likely going to be the most important thing to a man 10 years. You always have to think long term. 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. It's like business. There are people that build business as they are, what they call it now, they are self-employed. They do everything in the business. So if they are not there, the business cannot run. You can do that for a few years. When your strength ends, the business ends. Those that are entrepreneurs or those that own a business are those that build for the future. And so they may have to do everything at the beginning, but they begin to share the responsibilities, train people, train somebody, and then you do that until they get to a point where the business can run in their absence, physical absence, but they still have to be involved mentally. And then they build to a point where they probably are on the board and they're not even, they are not managing the business directly. And then, shareholders come in and all of that. So there is a way to build something long term. And there is a way to build something for subsistence, just so that we have something to eat. It's a matter of choice. And it depends on where you are. It's the same thing when it comes to marriage. Those features, every woman's body will change. It will change. My wife is not the way she was, when we dated. And sometimes we joke about it when we look at those pictures. I can't, say some of the things that we say when we look at those pictures, but the point is, she's not as slim as she used to be. And one of the things I learned about women is as if everyone wants to remain slim and all of that. And to me, I just wonder that what's the only fuss about? But it's important you're healthy. Yes, have a healthy weight. As long as you're strong, you feel you're healthy. That's what matters. And yes, it's also important that what is important to your husband, should be important to you also. That's part of how marriage works in terms of the way you look here. But I think there should be a healthy balance of those things. So what am I saying? The guy feels that, oh, this is what I, need. I need something that is big, And where that is coming from many times is because he's thinking about his sexual needs, which are valid. You understand? But if you think long term, think more long term, you realize that as much as that is important, what you will value the most, because life happens to everyone, is a person you can absolutely trust. So we still come back to core values. Is this person faithful? Is this person loyal? Is this person someone that can be trusted? Is this person a team player? Can you guys build something together? What is their perception about life? For me, those things should be ranked higher than how she looks physically. Because guess what? How she looks physically can change easily. It's easier to change that than it is to change a person's character. I think I sent you the link when we were chatting a few days ago. The video I did on competence, character, and chemistry. Now, the chemistry part, which is the one that what we call the vibe or the physical attraction part, is important, and that's why I included it there. But it doesn't make any sense if there is a vibe and the person has no character, or the person's character doesn't align with you, and the person is not competent. You can't build a marriage relationship without competence and character in a person. It's not possible. It's not going to last. And so it's about weighing those things. The way a person looks now can change. So ask yourself, just be truthful to yourself. The person, as far as the person's physical attributes are, all right, do you have any form of attraction to them? Now, there's a difference. Sometimes you may be with someone, you might respect everyone, but you just genuinely don't like, you really just don't like this person. Maybe to you, they may just be very loquacious. All right. Now, it doesn't mean that they are bad. It's just the way they are. You just might not be attracted to that, and that's fine. And that's why you have a say in it. You may say, okay, God said. After God has said, He expects you to say, because it's not God that will say I do. When you start before the other, you are the one that will say I do. And if you will not do, you will not do. It's as simple as that. God will also respect your own opinion on the matter. What I'm just trying to say is that what you want, is important. But sometimes you have to, you have to defer, to a higher wisdom to say, what are the things that really matter? That is part of where accountability comes in. When you have people in your life that have been married for long, that have healthy marriages, or you have people that I may call marriage mentors, which we encourage every couple to have. Before you make a choice as to who you want to marry, it helps if you have such people. If you don't have, you can build a relationship with such people. Sit down with them and ask, what should I be looking out for in a spouse? Which is part of what we're looking at here. Physical attributes can change. A slim woman can become plus size. A plus size woman can become slimmer. Those things can change. Those things can be worked on. But I don't feel that should be the priority. So what I'm saying is this. To the person that asked that question, if there is somebody within your circle, maybe she's still a friend, and as far as you're concerned, I hope you're still with me, Signal. Can you still hear me?
I'm here. Okay. I'm here with you, Dr.
All right, great. So, she's within your circle of influence. Maybe you guys are colleagues at work, and maybe you guys have started talking, and now you're friends. And she ticks every box in quotes. And so when I say tick every box, everything we've been talking about, this person fears God. She has, similar values with you. She's probably opened up about a bit of her future, what she wants to do. And you see that, it can work. And there are things you guys have some common interest, and she has an excellent attitude to work. But somewhere in your mind, you felt that you wanted a plus size person, but this person is very slim. I'm telling you that in the light of all the other things, all right, this is somebody that should, if you ask me, this is someone that, you should go with, because as far as her being plus size is concerned, that can be worked on. If you want her to be plus size, it can be plus size and all of that. No, that's what I'm saying. So some things can change easily. Some things may not be easy to change. Some things are heavier than other things. You understand? Again, let me also say this. What people say when they, back to this whole issue of, physical attraction and everything. Yeah. Sometimes people have images in their minds of things they have seen, something they saw in a movie, or something that, or maybe an ex, that one is even pretty common. Somebody that they really like, but maybe the person broke up with them. And maybe, unfortunately, if they probably got sexually involved with that person, and there's some form of, the concept of soul ties, which, can be, what's the word now, extended to excess sometimes. But the point is, once you get sexually involved with someone, there's something about, the interactions that have occurred that are beyond just a surface or physical level. Sometimes, even 3 or 4 or 5 years down the line, the reason why they have pictured in their mind that, oh, this is the kind of person, this is what they want them to look like, is because of something that happened in their past. And so it may not exactly be something that is fundamentally from them, but something that was superimposed on them. So sometimes you need to really ask, where is this coming from? Which brings us back to the question of understanding marriage. How a person looks physically matters when it comes to marriage. But it doesn't matter as much as a lot of people think. How they look internally weighs more. People, let me end with this example. And I think this is even common now with ladies. Sometimes with my friends, when we look at our old pictures, I was, with a friend, like a pretty close friend. We went on a joint family getaway. We traveled out of, Lagos with our families. And then while we're driving back, I was driving. So he showed me a picture of one of our mutual friends when he was graduating from University of Lagos. We were all in University of Lagos together. And we laughed. I said, is this how this person looked? And we laughed. And in my mind, and I've seen pictures like that, of myself and of other friends. And I just wondered, in our minds, we were handsome.
That's true.
In our minds, we were handsome. That's the truth. And so I look back now and I just wonder, so, this life, how we see matters. We thought we were handsome, but we look back now and we see How come my neck was long like this?
Yeah.
How could I possibly be looking like this? So I'm saying this to buttress the fact that physical appearance changes.
It does.
Typically, as things fall in place, as pepper begins to rest, like we say, it will influence the way you look. Makeup can do wonders. And when we say makeup can do wonders, it's not just about the superficial makeup. As a person becomes more comfortable, it also reflects in the way you look. So a person's look can be enhanced in a healthy manner. And so don't, because of that, because again, like I said, somebody has seen the picture of someone, maybe they saw in a movie that was maybe 20 years into their marriage, and they've gone into the peak of their career, and they're looking so good, they can afford to do so many things, and they have put that finished product on their minds, and they're trying to judge somebody that is at the beginning of their journey with that picture. It's not going to work. And that's how people miss out, on blessings from God just because they are short-sighted.
I mean, you really finished up that question, Dr. Dami. Thank you for that. How can, or what would you say to men who feel ready once they have money? Versus, I don't know if I should ask the other question. I think I should ask the two in one question, then you will take our time to dissect it. So the first part is, a lot of men now, you shared a lot of important things, and some of these men are even in churches, but go and do it now, go and go through this process. They just feel, look, when I have money, like I'm set for marriage, I'll do counseling because everybody's talking about it now, but I don't know if I want to do these other things. It's still a problem that we find. So I would like you to please speak to men regarding that. And this a lot of men being afraid to marry women who earn more than them. I don't know how you want to get into that, because there are a lot of men in that situation who have found women who are ready to be their wives, be submitted to them, but they just think and carry this mentality, maybe as a result of some of the things they see on social media, that she's going to disrespect me somewhere down the line because she earns more than me. So what can we say? How do we solve the problem of men who have found good men, but they earn more than them? And then this whole thing of men being so dependent on money for being ready, whether they have the money or whether they don't have the money.
Okay, so those are two very, good practical, questions that should be answered. I think they're very good questions. The one about money, to try to simplify it, does a man need money to be ready for marriage? Yes. Yes, a big yes. And so how much money is now the question? And so I think the bottom line is, because you see, everything in life costs money. And I'm careful about answering this question, because I know, for example, when we married, in terms of our finances were nothing close to the way they are now. And so I want to answer in as truthful and as balanced a manner as possible. Yeah. The presence of money, or having the means to take care of oneself is important, because if you marry someone, the basic minimum things, a place to stay, a comfortable place, safe and comfortable place to stay, all right, a source of income, at least one regular source of income, because the basic things like feeding, taking care of yourself and everything, before we talk about kids. So that's basic. Now, what that figure is, if you're going to put it in accounting terms, may vary for different people. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, you don't need money to be married. I'll be lying to you. You do. And if you needed money to be married in 2010, you need more money to be married now.
Yes.
If you live in Nigeria. Yeah. And so, which brings me to the concept of work. I feel that there's this course I did for singles. It's called On Stock. And in the On Stock course, I talked about how the dignity of marriage is reserved for one who has embraced the dignity of labor. If you think that you can make a marriage work and you want somebody to spend the rest of their life with you, your history with work is important. Your history with work is important. People talk about, okay, can I marry a guy if he doesn't have a job? it's a difficult question to ask. Okay, if he doesn't have a job, does he have his source of, because you don't have to have a job to have regular income. He may have investments and maybe he's out of a job, but he has to be able to earn, because he would have to, before we talk about taking care of you, and I know to those that are extreme feminists, that may sound a bit, maybe offensive and everything. In case you're watching, I have no apologies. I have no apologies, because in marriage, the woman should be taken care of, just like the man should be taken care of. It's just natural, all right? No matter how much, the money the woman has also. We'll come to that. Where can we find on stock for singles? Okay, we'll answer that. Somebody asked a question. And so, please remind me to answer that at the end.
Forget.
Yes. Okay, thank you, because sometimes I forget that. And so, your ability to earn is important. Before you take care of somebody, you have to be able to take care of yourself, and there should be some form of independence. I don't want to go into all the details of the things we look at in premarital counseling, but I'll just mention one of them. There is something we call well-being. When I take couples through premarital counseling, I use a combination of about 2 models, but there's a model that talks about mindset, well-being, context, and dynamics. Then we break it down. Under well-being, we have individual well-being, and then we have the relationship well-being. Under individual well-being, one of the things we look at is independence or maturity. One of the definitions of maturity is your ability to, or your capacity to be able to make decisions, have a mind of your own, all right? It doesn't mean that you're not subject to authority or you're not accountable, but it means that you are your own person. It means that you have, or it doesn't mean, it implies that there should be some form of income that can allow you to decide that, okay, I'm going to live by myself. This is, because if you're going to take responsibility, when we sign up for marriage, people don't realize that signing up for marriage means that you're starting a family. That's what it means.
Yes.
It's a startup, like business. It's a startup, and you need capital. For startups, depending on what you believe capital is. Yeah, so, and having financial means is one of them. So now I know that the challenge in this part of the world is that in Nigeria is for a lot of people, the economic climate is not favorable. And so maybe in some other environment, what you need to have minimum level of comfort may not be as much as what you need here based on, the cost of living and all that. But what I find is that there's a need for a balance. So my first answer is, oh yes, absolutely. Before a guy says he wants to marry, there's, he should be able to meet his basic needs. And beyond that, should be able to at least take care of, the spouse. And take care of her means housing, all right? Housing, it means feeding, the basic things, really, regardless of whether, she earns or not. Now, of course, this is 2023, and most people earn now. You will rarely find a marriage where it's just the guy or just the lady that earns. Now, there are people that have at least 2 sources of income. All right. So it helps. Of course, our own source of income is also a part of the plan. So you guys can plan based on that. But I think fundamentally, your ability to earn is key. Now, where I feel sometimes people go to the extreme is, and it also doesn't maybe favor the male-female dynamic, is that, the way it works, a guy can get married at 40. And biologically, it's not a big deal. Or even waiting for 45 or even 50. But a woman may not exactly have that luxury because of the way biologically she's designed, especially when you begin to think about kids. You understand what I mean? So what we find now is that you have a lot of guys that say, before I marry, at least I must have assets. I must be worth at least 20 million. I must be worth at least this and everything. And so, and many times that takes time. And so you can see maybe that doesn't necessarily favor, the ladies. And so finding the balance is a personal thing, really. The truth is, I wanted to get married very early. I got married at the age of 26 or 27. How old was I now? I think maybe 26 or 27. Genuinely in my plan, I wanted to be married by 24, 23, 24. But one of the reasons for that extra 3-4 years was finances, really. Because you have to plan. And then again, the wedding. We live in a part of the world where the wedding is a lifetime project. I feel for couples, honestly. I feel for couples. I've counseled so many couples, and this issue of wedding. In fact, let me tell you how powerful it is. There are people, there are people, there are people that a few of them that after counseling, I see that these guys are ready. They are ready. They've done everything, introduction, families have met each other, but the wedding date is 1 year. And the only reason why the wedding date is 1 year is because of the money that they want to spend for the wedding. So these are some of the realities. So now it doesn't have to be that way, depending on the kind of person you are. For example, I am the kind of person that I can say, I am not, this is what I'm going to do. And I tend to have a mind of my own. There is nobody, as long as I'm accountable and everything, but if I believe this is the right way to go, that's where I'm going to. And I believe everyone should have that. And so everybody can say, everybody can be angry, that's their business and everything. But, it's not that easy for so many people. And so that is a factor why some men, it is until 10, because out of that 20 million that they're saying that they must have at least sitting there, in their minds, they are going to spend at least 5 million on the wedding.
For the wedding.
Yeah. But it doesn't have to be like that. But then again, can you blame them? You also look at the context, expectation, because the person that they are going to be with, depending on the kind of exposure that she has, while 10 million might look like big money to some people, 10 million for some people is like 10,000. And so there are many factors. So it's difficult to put a figure to it, but I feel, yes, you need to be at least financially comfortable. The basics should be in place before you can start talking about dating, someone, at least to marry them. Yeah. That's the first one. The second question about being with a woman that earns more than you. Now that can also be tricky. There are people that I know of, people that have been married. I know of men that married women older than them, and they've been married for over 30 years, and they have their marriage is exemplary. All right. So it's about understanding. It's about really getting to know them. It's about values and all of those things. And it's also about having conversations in the relationship. If as a guy you feel that every woman that earns more than you will be disrespectful, if as far as you're concerned, nobody can convince you against that, chances are that you may have some insecurity issues. That's the truth. Chances are there's a good chance. And then it can also be as a result of maybe your experience, because not every woman is like that. Now, whether the one you are dating is like that, we do not know. So, of course. But what I find is this: if a guy has insecurity issues, and we all have little insecurities here and there, little ones. But if it's something that is a big deal, it can play out in different ways. So if a guy believes that every woman that earns more than him will not be submissive, chances are that when he marries, he will not allow his wife earn more than him. Meaning that he probably would be a cap, put a cap. Because I personally don't have an issue, as me personally, I don't have an issue with my wife any more than me. Our marriage has gone through different phases. There's been a phase where I was the only one earning. There's been a phase where we're both earning. There's been a phase where I was earning more than she was. There's been a phase where she was earning more than I was. There's been a brief phase where I was not earning. And all about, we have an understanding and all of that. So if you ask me genuinely, do you have an issue with my wife earning more than me? How can I have an issue? I'm happy. It makes my life easy. Really. All right. God will take care of us, literally. But how God takes care of us is a different thing. And so whatever streams of income. So my point is this: if you're watching this and you believe as a guy that it is impossible for a woman to earn more than you and still respect you, chances are that you may need to look inwards. You might have insecurity issues. And it means that even if you marry a woman that you earn more than now, as things go on, when she begins to earn, if she begins to earn more than you, and if you allow it, because that's another thing, because a woman, when you make a decision for marriage, you have to also think about the person you want to marry somebody that will allow you to grow, which is very key. And that person must be secure. Chances are that when you get married to that person, if she begins to earn more than you, then there will be issues. Even if she's actually still submissive and she still respects you, but your insecurities will not allow you to say that. You will interpret any little thing that she says or does as the fact that now you are being disrespectful to me because you earn more than me. Exactly. So most times the issue is not really about who earns more. Most times it's usually an issue about whether a person is secure. You understand what I mean? Yeah. So so of course by default, if you believe that every woman that earns more than you would be disrespectful, please don't marry a woman that earns more than you, because it will be a recipe for disaster. All right. So but let the woman also know that as you are getting married, you expect to earn more than her for the rest of your life. So let both of you be okay with it, and then if you want to proceed. But let me just also speak to the women. It also takes a lot of maturity and wisdom. Again, still going back to accountability. A woman that fears God genuinely, even if she earns more than her husband, and again, like we said, life happens, and maybe the husband's business is not going for a brief moment, or is out of a job. They're not women, they're high-flying women, godly women that we know. They are wealthier than their husbands. That's the truth. And the kind of wealth that they have, there is nothing the guy can do. There's the kind of wealth that is like, when you say transgenerational wealth, there's no work you want to do that you end up to that.
Match up, yes.
Match up, yes. But they are happy. They have an understanding. And so it's possible to have a healthy marriage, even when the woman, earns a lot more than you. And it also depends on your outlook to life. So if you are, if you're exposed, you are well. So let me give an example now. Let's just use an example that comes to mind. My kids were telling me that Elon Musk was the wealthiest person in the world. I said no, it's not correct. I said somebody had gone past him, and then we checked online, and they were right. So they were even more correct than me, because I think very recently they did another evaluation, and Elon Musk has become wealthier. Maybe the shares of Tesla or whatever. The way all those things works. So imagine if, I don't know about a lot about. I have an idea about his family, but imagine if somebody was married to Elon Musk's daughter, and let's say he willed everything to her. The chances that you will be wealthier than her is very slim.
Yeah, true.
And so, but if every other thing is in place and if every other thing is in order, why should that be an issue? So like I said, so it's a question of, what your values are. It's a question of, what you are comfortable with. But it's possible to marry a woman that earns more than you, and both of you can be happy. All right. It will not always be like that. But even if it would always be like that, it really doesn't matter. I feel that when people really understand how the wisdom around marriage, things like this person earns more, this person is better, and all those things really don't matter when you really understand how marriage works and that it's a team. In football, I like football. What matters at the end of the day is who won. All right? Who won? It's not really about the individual players. Yes, there are awards for individual players, but in history, what people remember is what club won, what team won. That's how marriage is. The team wins. All right? So, team wins, everybody's happy, regardless of who earns more. Yeah.
That makes sense. All right, I want us to answer the on-stock question for singles before we go to the final, because I want to ask you like the final group of questions. So for those who need the on-stock for singles, how can they access that? Okay,
so there are two options. One option is, so I have an on-stock course that I take, so it's like a coaching. It's a 4-week coaching, 4-session coaching, one-on-one sessions with singles. So there are people that, outside of those that are dating or engaged or married couples, I've had some clients that reached out to me to say, okay, they've had troublesome relationships in the past, or they're about to go into a relationship, and, they want a package. On Stock is the package for them. And so if you go to my Instagram, the link in my bio, you'd see the On Stock package. You can click. Typically, I have a clarity session. I want to know what your expectations are, what your needs are, and then I can suggest. But if you're single and your focus really is, okay, I want to get ready for dating, not that you are already in a relationship. You're already in a relationship, there's a different package for that. You're a single person, all right? You want to prepare yourself for dating and ultimately for marriage. On Stock works for you. So that's option one, which I would say is the preferred option, because we get to have one-on-one sessions, and then I can administer tools and guide you on things you can do. The other option is that's the course, the simple course, which is on Seller. It's been on seller for a while. I'm gonna have to go check, if it's something that you can still access. But again, if you go to the link in my bio, you'd see it there. I think it's there. It's one of the tabs there on stock, the course on seller, and you should be able to purchase it directly on seller. Yes, so that's the other option. So there's the one-on-one coaching, on stock coaching, and the curriculum is the same. But the difference with the course is that for the one on seller, you just basically watch, the video. I think it's a two-part video really, and then Q&A. But for the coaching one, I will personally, take you through the journey, and of course that is more robust and more intensive than the seller course here.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Dr. Dan. So I want to ask you the final group of questions. I just like to ask the questions in group, and there are going to be 3 as we wrap up. The first, and I think the most important question in the group is, so I wanted this, and we're getting to that objective to be a conversation, this conversation to be a conversation for men and women. So now we've spoken a lot to the men, but I would like for wives to be that are also listening, especially in the 21st century. There are a lot of things, wrong things too, that are now influencing women's minds. So you have been married and you are a therapist, you're active in that field. The first question will be, what do men need in a wife, so that wives as well that are preparing can know that these are the things that men are needing in a wife, not in a girlfriend, not in a personal brand, not in all of these things that we think of apart from marriage. The second thing will be just your thoughts, your brief thoughts on why it seems like men cheat, or cheating is prevalent in this generation, because it's now even men and women. It's no longer a men thing, and what can be done regarding that. And I think one more thing would be, okay, I think those are the other things too, because you've been able to answer the question. I wanted to ask why you think men are not getting married in this generation, but you've really touched on that in the course of the of your answer, so that we don't repeat that. But if you want to say anything to that to encourage the men that are holding back rather than choosing to get married, please feel free, Dr. Dan. So those are the last set of questions.
Okay. What the qualities? The first question: the qualities that men look out for in a woman. Yes. So,
yes.
My simple answer is I don't know. And the reason I said I don't know is I can't answer for every man. I can only talk about me, and I already talked about the qualities that I looked out for. But let me put it this way: let me say the qualities that I feel that a man, a wise man, should look out for in a woman. Are some of the qualities I already spoke about. Somebody that genuinely fears God, genuinely, because that points to accountability. The marriage zone is an interesting dynamic. It's an institution that requires accountability. And so if you want to, as a woman, if you have not been accountable to anyone, if you have not been able to humble yourself and say, this person knows better, I want to learn from this person, or, let me listen to this person's counsel, or you're comfortable, taking correction, it's not likely that you'll be able to do that in marriage, especially if you're somebody that is a high flyer, career and all of that. So being God-fearing and being accountable, like I said, is non-negotiable. That is very key, very, very key. Very closely linked to that is somebody that, is genuinely kind. I think it's important. That values people, values people. When you marry a person, you elevate them to a place that no other mortal person, has. It's an office. I like to say the husband is an office, the wife is an office. The same way the president is an office. Even if you don't like the president, as long as he stays in that office, you have to accord a level of honor, and respect, just like for different institutions, ministers as well and everything. And so it's the same thing in the marriage institution. But if you are someone that doesn't treat people right, if you're someone that you don't have respect for, a basic human being, if you're someone that always measures how you treat someone based on how they look, whether they have money or not, because whether you like it or not, we live in a very materialistic world. That's the truth. one of the things that distinguishes godly people from others is that you see that a man's life doesn't consist in the abundance of things that he has. All right. So the fact that somebody doesn't look the part, doesn't mean that they should be treated with disrespect. And so, unfortunately, I'm not saying this is the case for every woman. Unfortunately, material has been elevated. We see it in the music, the prevalent music. We even see it sometimes in the messages that are preached, And that's why, probably to quote James, the book of James, he talked about how you can't have the faith of Jesus with the respect of persons. What he's saying there is that you shouldn't be partial and say because this person looks this, you this. There's a place for honoring people based on the office they sit in, but there's also a place for basic human dignity. And so that is very key. A wise man would always look out for character. Everything I've been saying is character. And that's why I talk about the three C's: character, competence, and then chemistry. Character. Character is fundamental. Character is non-negotiable. A person that is respectful, that has compassion, that is kind, has empathy, that is honest, very key, that would have your back, because marriage is like a marathon. It is long term. And so, unfortunately, we have a lot of women, again, I say this respectfully, we have a lot of women, just like we have men also, that are short term in their thoughts. Short term. Everything is just short term. Marriage is a long game. And so, character is key. Let me also add competence. Competence is about being diligent or being good at something. This is 2023. It's unlikely you find a guy that wants to marry someone that just wants to be a housewife. There are, I'm not saying that they are not. And there's nothing wrong with being a housewife. I'm just trying to make you realize that, you have to also understand the times in which we live in. Because a guy can have enough money, to take care of you. You don't have to work for the rest of your life. But it's not just about having a job or not having a job. I think that most men also want women, not just that are supportive, but are also innovative, that can bring something to the table. And so being a person of value, all right, and so having that balance is important. You can be a woman that is a high flyer, a woman that is excellent at what you do, a woman that makes money, and also that has impeccable character. I think that combination is powerful. I think it is, very powerful. And so the things I have said, somebody that genuinely fears God, and it shows up ultimately, in their character. And character is summarizing how do they treat people, all right? Even if you're not going to marry me, okay, assuming that I don't want to date you, assuming that you don't know I have money, how would you treat me? Those are the basic things, that I feel that a wise man will look out for in a woman. All right, very, very key. And then, of course, competence. Chemistry is something that happens, the dynamics, is a bit difficult to explain. It's as a relationship, goes on. And I feel that when those two things are in place, it's easy to develop chemistry. Chemistry generally develops with people that have common interests, people that are alike in certain ways. You may not look alike physically, but your values are alike, your interests are alike, the way you see life is aligned, so you feel attracted to the person. It's the same way people make friends. You're drawn to this person because there's something about them that calls you, that draws you. There's something about them that reminds you about yourself. And a lot of people don't know it. Human beings are, by default, not selfish, very, pretty self-centered. We love ourselves. We are very self-protective. And so when you're with somebody that, in a sense, you feel like, this person understands me, it is easy to develop chemistry, with that person. This person sees my perspective. It's easy to develop, chemistry with that person. So those are the things I believe, any wise man will look out for in a woman. Your second question, please remind me what your second question was.
Oh, about why we have prevalence of the cheating situation that is coming up.
Yeah.
What's because that one is even a topic on its own. Just your brief advice on how people can curb that.
Well, so the thing is, my honest answer would be, I think it starts from parenting. So it's difficult to curb it when somebody is grown up already. There are ways to deal with that. There are professional ways to deal with that. There are people that, for them it has become an addiction. Let me put it that way. They are serial, cheaters in quote. And so just like you have to do a recovery program for somebody that is, a substance abuse addict, or addicted to pornography and all of those things, you can have you can have that. So there's remedy for that. But it's easier if we're going to talk about dealing with it on a long scale. And the truth is that it's going to get worse. That's what I feel. It's going to get worse because it's a vicious cycle. And so you have two people that come together, they say they want to marry each other, and then they begin to cheat. One person cheats, or the other cheats, or both of them are cheating. And then kids always see they are smarter than we realize. The kids know. Usually they know. And then they see that, and they can normalize it. And if there's no intervention to break that cycle, they will repeat the same cycle. And then, so we didn't get here overnight. It's something that happened over time. And so the question is, if we see how we got here, we may be able to find out how to remedy it. How did we get here? It started from what we were exposed to. So let me just, and this speaks about the power of media, power of the things that you consume. Now, and it's something that I have to be careful about. One of the ways I relax is that I watch movies, but I'm pretty careful about the movies that I watch. Now, we have movies where all kinds of agendas are being sold subtly, but don't let me even go there. But let's talk about this issue of infidelity and cheating. Now, it is now common in a movie to have maybe the main actor, that is married, and then there is somebody on the outside, and the person breaks his marriage vows, or it might be the she that breaks his marriage vows, and the way the story is designed, it glamorizes the person that has gone out to have an affair. So they glamorize the affair. So the person, the affair is now more glamorous than the marriage. Go and check a lot of series. That's how it is.
That's true.
And then, so the way it is now glamorized is that there will now be, a spin to the story where maybe it's this guy that has violated the marriage institution or God's law of marriage that becomes the savior of the country, or that becomes, the one that killed the bad guy. But he's just violated. So we didn't get it overnight. So over time, people consume that over time, and then we just, it's a normal thing. Pornography is another thing, what's the word now? There's a term for it when the bodies of women have become objects, when we objectify women. All right, it has become so people are more focused about the immediate gratification of just having a good time with someone, and then literally destroying the trust of a marriage relationship that you've been building for years. So it's a combination of many things. So how do we break that? Let's have children that we model the right model to. Now, I know this is a funny way of looking at it, but it's one of the solutions. It's not just one channel, but your own home, be the example. And if you're listening to me and you've cheated on your spouse and you're not proud of it and everything, you can get help. It doesn't mean that the marriage is over. I have worked with people where there was infidelity and their marriage is strong and they're doing well. Going through that phase is not an easy thing, but they're doing well. And I'm saying this genuinely. They're doing, and we still have contacts, we still talk and everything. And some of these people are even in the public eye. And so it doesn't mean that your marriage has ended if somebody has cheated. But if the right steps are not taken, it will happen again. And so when we have a home where the kids see that dad and mom genuinely love each other, respect each other, their perspective, why do you think we have people that are not interested in marriage now? They don't want to hear about it. It's because of the examples they saw. They grew up in abusive homes, or they've been in abusive relationships and all of those things. So the examples that they have been subjected to were not, they were not good examples, and so they said they would rather not have that and everything. Again, not everybody will marry, and so you can decide to be single. It doesn't mean your life has ended. You can accomplish a lot. Marriage is not the be all and end all. Really, marriage shouldn't be idolized. But if we say we are marrying, let's do it the right way. And so when we set the right example for our kids and they see that, they see it can be done, they internalize a lot of those things, and then they can go ahead and produce their own marriages that are laudable. And so I think that's one of the ways of dealing with it. The second and the last I would say here is we have to be covert. We have to be smart. A generation came and sold us all those movies, and they are everywhere now. We have to be able to build platforms where we show people that marriages work. All right, and that's one of the reasons why I am passionate about this. You have to be able to make people, not everybody is cheating. There are a lot more faithful men and women than you know. And nobody can convince me that more people in the world are cheating than those that are not. You have to show me statistically. You can't prove it to me statistically. You can't. And so what we usually have is that the people that are in the public eye and the people that are maybe famous, you have a couple of them that the marriage doesn't work and then it is everywhere.
Yeah.
That doesn't negate millions of families that exist and are healthy. So let nobody deceive you. Like they say, everybody's doing it. No, not everybody's doing it. You need to understand that. So, but those of us that, by God's grace, are building in the right way and who've had good examples and are helping others to build, we have to think beyond subsistence. We have to think, how can we show people the true image of what marriage is and that it's worth it? How can we help people think long term, and not short term? And help people see that marriage is actually a divine idea and it's a beautiful idea. So those are some of the things we need to begin to look at. And thank God for family life practitioners we have. The field is growing. It's still a young field. It's growing, helping people build, homes of their dreams, according to God's pattern and all of that. Yeah. So those are the things I would say off the top of my head. I'll just make a comment about what you said about these days, as if the guys are not marrying.
I don't wanted to get married.
To get married. Well, so again, you have to ask the guys why they are not getting wanted. I don't know why, but it's a combination of many things. The economics of our environment is a major part. Check it. When my parents got married, their own generation, a lot of them got married in their 20s. A lot of them.
Yes.
Yes. Huh. Now, my own generation, a lot of us got married close to 30. A lot of them got married early 20s. For us, a lot of us, got married closer to 30. This generation that is coming, a lot of them 30s, even some 40. So it's a combination of many things. Yes. It's a combination of economics, that's one, and then perception also. Perception. We're talking about, what it takes to have a wedding now. The taste of people, the good life. People have tasted the good life. Nobody wants to suffer in quotes. Yeah. So the average guy is thinking, if I'm going to, of course there are many other reasons, but the average guy is thinking, if I'm going to settle down, with someone, if you ask the average lady, what kind of home is she looking at? A lot of women also, they've seen the good life. When I say they've seen this, they see other people. They've seen media. Technological advances makes us see what happens in different cultures. And so, not many women are willing to live, in a suburban place or go and live, in the village, in one room and everything. Everybody's thinking, basic, maybe 2-bedroom flat in the city. Those things cost money. So, and the guy, any responsible guy, and it's part of what, a man's identity. He wants to be able to provide, for his family. So those are some of those things that inform that. Of course, on the other side, there are guys that, why should they marry? Why should you tie me down to one person? When I can, enjoy myself, I can be whoever I want to be with and everything. Unfortunately, that's the reality for a lot of people. They see marriage as, something to tie them down. And I saw someone that is, pretty popular on social media. He talked about how he doesn't believe that he's supposed to be only one woman. And you can't convince him otherwise. That he doesn't believe it. And so, it's a good thing that he's upfront about it. And so the women that come into his life, they should know this guy, is successful, hugely successful in his career. If I mention his name, you know him, everybody knows him. But he was open about it, that why should he be only one person? And yes, there are people that think, even in religious circles, that think that in history men have had many wives and everything, that why should they be? Yes, and there are those that can justify it. It's fine. So that's why you need to know who you are with. If you're a woman and you're thinking you want to be the only wife, better be sure that this guy is a one-man, one-wife person before you go ahead. You understand what I mean? Yeah. So, of course, some people see marriage as a limitation, and then why should they get married when they can enjoy their career and everything? So that's just the way it is.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dami. We're wrapping up with a rapid fire question. It has been hot, but hot in a good way, because we're gaining wisdom. So we want to wrap up in a fun way, just get to know a bit about you. But you cannot, Dr. Dami, you cannot take more than 30 seconds to answer these questions. They're just quick, rapid fire questions. So get right into it. And of course, that's how we're going to wrap up. Thank you to everybody that stayed with us till this time. The first question is, what is your favorite color?
Black, blue.
Ah, Dr. David, which one is black blue? Is
Yeah.
it black
Yeah.
and blue or black or blue?
It depends on what day it is.
Okay. Dr. David, second rule, it has to be one. Okay. The
Okay.
next question. The next question. What's your favorite food?
Well, roots and tubers. I like roots and tubers. So it's a classification. Roots and tubers. Yam,
So,
Irish potato more than sweet potato. So roots and tubers together with maybe fried eggs or sauce. Yeah. I'm a roots and tubers guy.
yes. Wow. Okay. What are you allergic to?
I don't. I don't.
Okay.
Well, medically speaking, I don't have any allergies.
Mm.
But socially speaking, I'm allergic to I'm allergic to laziness.
That makes sense. Okay. What is your best movie so far?
Ah, it's difficult to answer one, but the ones that
Okay.
come
Yeah.
to my mind,
Yeah.
I loved Three Idiots. I don't know if you've seen Three Idiots. Three Idiots, fantastic movie. I loved it. I also really liked August Rush. August Rush. I'm a musical person. I loved I still remember the music in August Rush. Lovely. Movies, not series. So those are the two
Okay.
that
Yeah.
come to mind. There are others. There are others. I like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm a science fiction, action kind of person. So Marvel
Okay.
movies, yeah, I love them.
Okay. All right. What is your best book?
Ha! Best book. That was yellow. Like you say, Yoruba. That one is hard. Okay. Apart from the Bible, the book that influenced me the most, I would say, How You Can Be Led by God's Spirit by Kenneth Hagin. Some of you may know him or some of you may not, but I think that book has influenced me the most. I read it in 2000 and first read it in 2002. Yeah, 2002, 2003. Yeah, How You Can Be Led by God's Spirit. I think that's the book that's influenced me the most.
Were you given birth to in Nigeria? Were you born in Nigeria?
I was everything in Nigeria. I was conceived in Nigeria. I was born in Nigeria. I schooled in everything. Married in Nigeria.
In Nigeria, but okay, let's leave that. The next is, so if you are not born in Nigeria, what country would you have liked to be born into?
Outside Nigeria, anywhere. I'm just joking.
No, you have to choose a country.
The truth is, I don't know. I've not really thought about it. So if you ask me what country, maybe from the perspective of maybe liking their culture or maybe liking their story, I would say, I would say maybe Japan.
Okay. Yeah.
Or Denmark or Sweden, the Scandinavian countries, the Eastern European countries, yes. From what I've read, yes. Those are the ones I can think about. Maybe Australia because of the influence of, things like Hillsong music, Darlene Zek also greatly influenced my life. Musically, Australia, yeah.
Okay. Gold or silver?
What kind of question is that? Gold, of course.
This program.
Why would I be silver?
Silver. Okay, black or white?
That's you now. That's why you and me. It's gold.
Oh my God. Okay, black or white?
Black.
Yellow or pink?
That one is hard though. None of the above. None of them.
Okay. What is one favorite thing about your wife?
One. There are plenty. How can you ask me just one? Favorite thing about my wife, her laughter. My wife has the most unique laughter. You should hear. If you go on my Instagram, you will see what I'm saying. Some of the videos we did together. My wife has a signature laughter. That's one I'll pick. Her laughter is something else.
Okay. What is one favorite attire for you to wear?
Favorite attire. I like natives actually. I actually like natives. I think I'm becoming more warm to casuals now. I run away from anything suit and tie because it feels like bondage.
Mm. Okay. What is one favorite thing for you to do?
Favorite thing for me to do? To pick one. I actually like to play. I like to play.
Okay.
I like to play with people that I love. I enjoy play. So play can be different things. Play. Oh yeah. So I discovered a lot lately also that I'm more athletic than I realized. I told you that I like football or
Mm.
sports. Yeah. So I actually
Mm.
like outdoor games. So I'm beginning to discover a lot more. Yeah. So I like outdoor play. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. What do you like to do for fun? Just still
For,
this.
yeah. Similar. So um, for fun, play generally, outdoor play, sports,
Okay.
games. I like computer games also. Well, not many of them. Actually like to play soccer, computer games. What else? I I I organize retreats for couples. I find that I love to organize things. I'm a details person, so I love to organize
Okay.
people around something that I'm passionate about,
Mm.
and that also brings value to them. Yeah. And I like
Okay.
music as well. I like music. I like I like people that exhibit musical intelligence. So I watch a lot of, auditions and musical shows. Yeah, and then
Okay.
some movies as well. Yeah.
Okay. Small chops or jollof rice?
Ha ha. My dietary goals these days, the two of them, I like both.
No, but this
I'll,
one
I'll,
will
I'll
not.
go. Okay, I'll go small chops. I'll go small chops.
Small chops. Okay. Fruits or vegetables? I know Dr. Dami is a doctor, but you have to pick one.
Ah,
Fruits or vegetables?
you have to pick one. Um, because of the things you can add to vegetables, I'll go with vegetables because vegetables you can hide meat inside. You can hide.
Fish and
Yeah.
egg, chicken. That's true. Would you rather take the train or would you rather take a ship? That's railway or
Hey,
waterways.
hey, question of life. By the way, my wife is in the comment section. She's answering questions with
Yes, I think
small
that
chops.
comment. I think that comment.
That's the interesting thing. I've only been in a sensible train a few times. In Dubai, I don't remember being. I've been on a ship, but I don't remember being on a ship that sailed. So, ah, train,
So let me say,
train.
for this
No,
question.
I just thought
Okay.
about it. I just thought about it that if you set sail on a ship, the things that can happen on the ship, if something goes wrong.
That's true. All right.
So train,
Okay.
yeah.
Train. The bus or an airplane?
The bus or an airplane,
Yeah.
as in bus,
Yes.
airplane.
Roadway or the airways?
Um, airways, simply because it's always faster. Time is important, simply because it's always faster. But sometimes the rigors of the stress of getting on a plane, coming down, in and out of airports can be tricky. But I'll still go airplane.
Okay. Rain or sun? Writing or speaking? Forget that. Writing or speaking? Which one do you prefer to do?
Speak it.
Rain or sunshine?
Ah, because of my basic metabolic rate, rain.
Okay. Do you prefer trainings or one-on-one therapy or counseling sessions? So group trainings or one-on-one?
I love both, but I looking at my strengths.
Mm,
Huh? Looking at my strengths, I would lean. I don't know. So I would choose one over the other for different reasons.
yes.
But looking at my skill set, I would say one-on-one because of some of the things I'm able to do in one-on-one sessions. Yeah.
Okay. How do you prefer to learn, audio or visual?
Visual. I'm a visual
Okay.
guy.
Prefer to learn. A day at the beach or a day in one of your favorite restaurants?
Hmm. Oh, this question is like my wife that should be answering. She's the one. She's the one that likes to go to beach and restaurants. I thought you'll have said a day at the beach or a day in your house. And this is a day in my house. Beach, restaurants. Because of peer pressure. Peer pressure from my wife, a day at the beach.
Okay. All right. If you had a magical wand and you could change one thing in Nigeria, just one thing, what would that one thing be that you would like to see changed?
This is the thing that everybody wants to see changed. The government. the people in leadership. Nigeria makes me realize the power of leadership. It was John Maxwell that said everything rises and falls on leadership. I think that's his first law, out of the 21 laws of leadership. Everything rises and falls on leadership. The truth is that things are gradually changing, but the effect of how bad things have been, compared to the rate at which things are gradually changing, makes it look like things are not changing. And then there's also the global effect. Yeah. So it just makes me see what happens when you have people with capacity not being strategic enough to take positions of power, and then allowing those that don't have enough capacity take the lead. That's the case. The curious case of Nigeria. So leadership. I will change our leadership.
Finally, what would you like to be remembered for? That's the final question. What would you like to be remembered for?
I think that's the hardest question, really. Can I send you an email?
I was expecting.
I would like to be remembered. There are many things, really. There are many things. These are questions that help you to reflect. I would like to be remembered.
Questions corner.
Sorry?
No, I think welcome to the reflective corner, questions corner, where SAGENEL asks you reflexive questions.
So this is the last question, right?
Yeah, this is the final question. Yes.
Okay. I would like to be remembered. I would like to be remembered as okay. I would like to be remembered as someone that genuinely loved people. Genuinely loved people. I like to remember that someone that was a proof of God's love, because I feel that that's the greatest force on earth. People are looking for love in the wrong places, but there is so much abundance of God's love. It is limited to us as human beings. And when I work with people, and then because when people open up to you and you see some of the pain and the hurt that they go through, which is usually as a result of what other people have done to them, it hurts really. And so there's enough love to go around. I would like to remember that someone that was a representation of God's love, genuinely.
Wow, that's really good, Dr. Dami. Thank you so much for your time. I've also experienced that love by being kind enough to just share nearly 2 hours, really, with us this morning. Thank you.
A new record by SAGENEL, 2 hours Insta Live.
I just looked at it and I was like, what?
Powerful.
3 minutes to 12. Like, thank you so much. And for those that will be watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe, share, and share your comments as well. You can follow Dr. Dami on Instagram, Family Life Doctor. I'm on Instagram at @sage_nel. Thank you, Mrs. Fumi, for being here. So everybody that joined us, thank you. We're so grateful. Have a great time ahead. Bye.
Bye.